to double check this, but yes, it appears that Parasol Stars was released only in Europe. There weren't many European exclusives. Things like the ultra-rare Bamsi were often just re-sprited versions of other games. Bamsi is just a sprite swap of a game called We're Back, so I really don't know why people are prepared to spend such ridiculous sums of money on something that has other versions of the exact same game for $5. And there's the occasional random thing like lingo that only really makes sense in particular countries. But there are some that are actually part of quite large franchises. In what is some of the more confusing nomenclature, Parasol Stars is a sequel to a game called Rainbow Islands, which in itself is part of the Bobble series. It's a weird offshoot that was really popular in Europe particularly, on the Atari ST and Amiga home computers. Considering who its relatives were, and also the gameplay, it seems like something that was ported from the arcade, but apparently not. The first known version was on the PC Engine, from which all the other versions were translated. The box says Rainbow Island 2, but in-game it actually says The Story of Bobble 3, so I don't know what it's actually called. Maybe both are correct. Who cares, let's just stick with Parasol Stars. Bub and Bob are not your protagonists here. They're now called Bubby and Bobby, and are humans instead of dragons, and neither do you blow bubbles. The game is set on a single screen with platforms and enemies, and fruits and medals and things to collect. You are a chubby little boy with a parasol, which can be used as a shield by pointing it at an oncoming enemy and pressing B. This allows you to spike the enemy and fling it off to kill it. The aim of each stage is to clear the monsters out. There are raindrops that fall that you can catch and somehow fire at enemies as well. Manage to collect 5 at the same time without propelling them, and they turn into a large one, which fires out a cool stream of water that takes out anything in its path. You can also boost this with effects such as fire or lightning. The power that you have is determined by collecting a power-up beforehand. Collect a fire power-up and then 5 drops to create a blaze of flame on the ground to take multiple enemies out. It's hard to do because you can't attack enemies while you're trying to collect enough rain. You'll lose whatever you've collected, but is worth trying sometimes if you have the space. Don't mess about too much, however, because if you take too long, a message saying "hurry" pops up and an invincible, flaming, disembodied head comes out to get you. By picking up an enemy on your umbrella, you can stun other ones by throwing them, and it's possible to collect the prizes that fall by lobbing things at them. Often on levels there'll be a larger baddie. In the first world it's this giant piano, and you need to hurl the small enemies or the raindrops at it until it dies. On levels like this, the other enemies will continuously regenerate so that you have ammo until it's dealt with. You jump using A and can slow your descent using your parasol by pushing up as you fall. This allows for some skillful movement, as you can freely move left or right as you drop slowly down. Boss levels work slightly differently. They occur every few stages but no longer have the raindrops falling to use as a weapon. Instead, you have to grab a bottle. Once you've got this, just hold your umbrella above your head and it'll start to accumulate raindrops on its own. You can then use these against the boss. As an Amiga fanboy in the early 90s, I'm really familiar with this game. Bright and colourful, cartoonish as it's possible to be, with a fast-flowing pace that remains accessible and fun, even for little ones. Obviously, the Game Boy loses out on the vibrancy by being grayscale, but at least the sprites are as charming as usual. The prizes are a little letdown though, with the usual human-sized cakes or fruits shrunk right down to little indeterminate collectibles of 5 or 6 pixels. Character movement is still really fluid and speedy. This version, sadly, is rendered too hard by ruthless enemies that seek you out, and the volume of droplets being much reduced. It's usually really easy to collect 5 raindrops as there's a veritable downpour of them, but here, whether because of sprite limitations or whatever, they're a lot sparser. Usually the time constraints are pretty lenient, but here it's as if some levels give you 30 seconds or so to kill everything before the hurry up message comes up, which is really too harsh. All these things unnecessarily increase the difficulty above where it should be. Parasol Stars is meant to be a game that you can leisurely plow through, getting a good chunk of the game beat in one go. That's the appeal of it in a way, and it's missing from here, leaving behind a frustrating, albeit still entertaining experience. Thanks so much for watching this video. The Kickstarter for the book is now live. Check the link in the description for how you can back the project and be the first to get your hands on the Portable Power Encyclopedia, featuring more than 900 Game Boy game reviews and a whole wealth of useful information on the world's favorite handheld console. See you later on.